that whoever told you that, they lied to you. Right. Absolutely. Well, in this generation, we're talking about redemption. Your prayers should be, Brother Ben, that if we could just get access to that instruction manual again. Is there any way you can help me get a copy of that manual again? That should be our prayer in this generation. That the Creator would be so merciful unto us, so as to allow us once again access to that instruction manual. But at this stage of our development, there is no way you can believe that this body and soul was created to last through immortality, and it came without an instruction manual. So you understand why the dialysis machine, it's simple. You did not follow the instructions. You understand why the heart surgery, you understand why the lung surgery, you understand why all of these things exist. One reason: they've been violating the instructions and putting the wrong kind of fuel, the wrong kind of oil, not understanding the indicator pattern. And the light starts flashing, and you have no idea that that's an indication that something is about to go wrong, because all of that you cast it aside. And the Father's here to revive you, to make you understand you've got to get back to the Genesis. You've got to pray and ask the Creator again to give you access to that instruction manual again. I'm telling you, you can't just eat anything. This soul is calibrated. This wasn't just haphazardly put together. This soul was calibrated for a certain kind of fuel. If that automobile was calibrated for a certain kind of fuel, don't you think the Creator in His infinite wisdom calibrated this soul for a specific kind of fuel? This soul is calibrated. There is a constitution. You cannot put any kind of fuel into this soul and expect it to perform without malfunction. On your sheet again, calibrate.
Calibrate. Read off this wise. Calibrate. The way in which a thing is composed or made up.
Way in which something is composed or made up. This was calibrated. This was calibrated. How could you be under the impression that, well, it was just made for anything? You cannot continue to believe such falsehood. This soul was calibrated. It was calibrated. And it was calibrated for the fuel that was recommended in the book of Genesis. Genesis 1 and 29.
Reading from the book of Genesis, the first chapter and the 29th verse, reads on this wise. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for food.
To you it shall be for food. There is the manufacturer giving you your instructions as to the proper fuel that is required to provide the essential, vital nourishment for your soul. For your soul. The Genesis. I said we have to get back to the Genesis. Back to the Genesis. These are episodes. These are episodes. But you must get back to the Genesis to understand why this is developing, to understand this picture that the Father is painting for you. The Genesis again.
Right. Reading from Genesis 2, verse 7. And it reads on this wise. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground.
And he formed man of the dirt, the soil of the ground. Body assembled over the soul.
And breathed into his nostrils the breath of life.
And he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. The breath of life.
And man became a living soul.
He became a what?
A living soul.
And man's soul was enlivened. This is our first contact with life in the Bible. Nothing to do with the womb of a woman or the sperm of a man. The breath of life. The breath of life. These instructions. And man's soul came alive. Man's soul was enlivened. The soul. And that was the original soul, right? Oh, that's gone. That was the original soul, right? I mean, he was full of life. Soul came alive. His soul was enlivened. The disclaimer. The instruction. The plans. Let us consider. If the Creator said, you were created from the dirt, from the soil. If that is in fact the truth, then there has to be some type of synergy between you and the soil. Is that correct? Let us think. There has to be some type of synergy. The soil. Let us consider the minerals in the soil. Okay, if you were created from the soil, there has to be an indication, because that soil, whatever is in that soil, has to be in you. Right. Iron. A mineral in the earth. Anyone here without iron in their body? All of you got iron in your body, is that correct? Let's go further. Magnesium, a mineral in the earth. Do you have magnesium in your body? Manganese, a mineral. Do you have manganese in your body? Phosphorus, zinc, nickel, calcium. All of the minerals in the earth are in your body. It proves the Genesis creative process. You, in fact, must have been made from the soil, because all of the minerals in the earth are in your body. And if you allow them to be depleted, you will become weak and make transition. Is that correct? That means you must have a continuous supply of phosphorus, zinc, iron, calcium, nickel. You must have a continuous supply, because that fuel is essential. Well, in his infinite wisdom, the Creator, knowing that you could not go out to a mountain of iron ore and hack off a piece of iron ore and ingest it and digest it. You can't consume iron like that. You can't consume those minerals in the form of ores. You can't do that, because this is not calibrated to digest that. So in his infinite wisdom, what did the Creator do? He caused plants to grow forth from the same dirt, the same soil from which you were created, and he told you, instructed you, you consume those plants, and contained in those plants you will find iron, phosphorus, zinc. You got to, now this just makes sense. From the same plant, from the same earth, from the same dirt that you were created. He brought forth plants, and he simply told you, understanding that you cannot allow them to be depleted, he simply instructed you, eat the plants. That the proper fuel for your soul, it has to be extracted from the plants. And those were instructions. So then, that also proves the Genesis creative process. Because all of you in this room have got all of those minerals in your body, and you must not allow them to become depleted. You must not allow them to become depleted. But deception has you believing. Okay, someone will say that, Brother Ben, I mean, you can get iron from a cow, and you can get all of those minerals from a cow, and from animal flesh. And you're right. But think for a moment. But that iron isn't compatible for this soul. The Creator gave us the instructions as to where.
I bet they can see. They can? Yeah. Cap, but alright. Y'all all cap.
Countries who are at high risk of debt distress. 3.3 billion people, can you ignore them just because markets are not rattled? Unacceptable. Climate action SDGs require long-term finance. So $500 billion a year, long-term affordable loans to developing countries. Second plank of the SDG stimulus. Third, contingency financing. COVID-19 has told us these disasters will hurt us when we are least prepared. So contingency financing should be available to countries as soon as they need. And lastly, he has called for stronger United Nations. I sometimes say at the country level, they are your firefighters. Fund them, strengthen them. And they did respond during COVID-19 and help countries to immediately respond to the challenges of social protection, people who were looking for health facilities, and of course, later on, vaccination of population. So these are the 5 areas of action in this report. I strongly recommend 49 actions identified by the SG to get out of this sobering environment and roll our sleeves, and the SDG Summit should be a turning point where we rally around the SDGs and reverse these trends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ASG, for the enlightening comments. Now I turn to Her Excellency, Dr. Yatun. The report does indicate that implementing the SDGs is going to require more from public institutions and political leaders than ever before, including the advancement of a longer-term, holistic perspective for policymaking. In practice, how can government approach the SDG implementation? How can it be achieved and advanced? How do you think the most important capacities that need to be strengthened to enable SDG implementation? Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Honorable speakers and moderator, distinguished participants. First of all, I would like to thank the Secretary General for the report and extend my deepest appreciation for this excellent opportunity to be part of this high-level event today. As the chair of the Board of Indonesia, I would like to share my perspective on the Supreme Audit Institution or SAI's rules in accelerating the 2030 Agenda achievement. The Secretary General's 2023 SDG report has raised an alarming condition. Under the current pace and without transformative policies, we will not reach the goals by 2030 and are leaving many people behind. In this regard, strengthening and optimizing SAI as an independent external oversight, along with the member of the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institution or INTOSAI, will promote the government budget allocations, accountability, and effectiveness, enabling effective SDGs implementation and ensure compliance with law and regulation. The Audit Board of the Development of Indonesia started auditing